it's important that infant and maternal mortality for me are the only, that to my knowledge, where we're forced to put women in trauma porn, right? Like, we've constantly asked women to relive this experience, relive their baby dying, or relive their morbidity experience. So if we look at Charles Johnson, Kiera's husband, who is constantly asked to speak about, his wife dying. We just had Judge Hatchett at our gala, and her whole 45 minutes was about her experience watching her daughter-in-law die and how she moved after that. But we constantly do that, but we still aren't throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the issue. And that's the problem. So how much longer? We do Aftershock. We do, all of those documentaries, Birthing Justice, amazing. We can do all of that, but we're still not doing everything. And we don't have a national stance on how do we stop this from happening.
I guess there isn't a national stance because there's not a quick fix. And it would have to be the recognition that there is an equity in care, and that the data shows that. The data shows there's statistics and data that talks about what residents perceive about people that look like me.
Yep.
And so there's lots of data that talks about that. And so I was saying this to Kelly. I said, well, until the medical system changes and the boards for becoming a doctor change, the boards for becoming a nurse change, where it's not a class on cultural competency, but it is teaching how you serve patients equitably. And so that's the challenge with this whole conversation, is that there are policies that are systemic and structural that have to be changed. And I guess your point about what is it going to take?
Yeah.
Well, I asked myself that question, right? So we already know that there's system and structural factors. We know that. We know that a person can graduate from medical school and get their board certification, but still have a perception that someone that looks like me may have, that their perception is, my pain tolerance is greater. That child's pain tolerance is greater. And then, what's scary is there are some steps, and there are people recognizing that we're going to have to look at the training differently, but that hasn't changed, and that hasn't happened yet. And so we can have individuals who are more aware of whatever word you want to use, better understanding because they've seen the inequity. It scares me that we can't walk out of this room saying that someone could go into a system today and be able to be heard. Mm-hmm. So medical gaslighting is what Kelly was referring to. That's a conversation now, because that means you walk in and you look like me versus you, and you're going to be treated differently. You're going to be questioned on, is your pain really that bad? Or do you really think it's time for you to have, I'm not a doctor, so whatever have a child, you're in the middle of birthing, right? And so the fact that you're questioned and that you're not believed, and that if you have someone that looks like you, they're going to believe you, but the likelihood of that happening is very small percentage based upon the statistics of nurses and doctors that look like us. So policy is like the undergirding of all of this, but I think when we can all come together and recognize that it's going to take the change of policy, no different than other conversations on policies that we're having across the country, that's what it's going to take.